Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Sometimes love doesn't come to you in daylight. It finds you in the shadows, in moments you can't explain, and in people you were never meant to meet. This is the story of how a single whisper in the night changed everything for me, and how love turned into something I could never walk away from. I grew up in a small town called Wilder's Creek, tucked between two hills and surrounded by pine trees that never stopped whispering when the wind passed through. Life there was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes every secret echo louder. I worked at a small repair shop off Main Street, the kind of place where the air always smelled like gasoline and metal. Days were simple, predictable, until she walked in. Her name was Clara. She was new in town, or maybe she just wanted to look that way. I remember the first time I saw her. Late afternoon light behind her, golden hair falling across her face. Her eyes the kind of blue that hides storms. She said her car had broken down near the old train crossing. I offered to take a look. That's how it started, just a simple favor between strangers. But there was something about her voice. Even the way she said, "Thank you," felt like a secret. She wasn't nervous or shy. She looked right into my eyes, like she was searching for something inside me. Over the next few days, she came back. Sometimes with excuses, a noise in the engine, a flickering headlight. Other times, she just wanted to talk. We'd sit outside after closing, watching the neon sign blink above the shop while she told me about the city she came from. She said she left because she needed peace, but the way she spoke, it sounded like she was running from something, not toward peace. I tried not to care, but you can't stop yourself from falling when it's already happening. One night, after everyone had gone home, I heard her voice outside. I stepped out and saw her standing near the road, the moonlight brushing her face pale. She looked scared, but calm at the same time. She whispered, "Do you ever feel like someone's watching you?" Before I could answer, she smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry, they won't find me here." That was the first whisper, the one that started everything. A week later, strange things began happening. Footsteps behind me when I locked up the shop. Headlights stopping across the street and then disappearing. Clara said it was nothing, but her eyes told a different story. She was hiding something, and somehow I was becoming part of it. One night she showed up at my door in the rain. No umbrella, no car, just trembling hands and eyes full of fear. "They found me," she said quietly. "I didn't ask who they were. I just let her in. That night, she didn't talk much. She just sat on the floor, staring at the window as if expecting someone to appear. I could feel the weight of her silence pressing against the room. She finally said, 'If anything happens, promise me you won't tell anyone you know me.' Her words hit like a cold wind. I didn't know what she was running from, but I knew I couldn't let her go. Over the next few days, I tried to keep her hidden. The town was small, too small for secrets. I started lying to my boss, telling him I was sick or working extra hours. Every time I looked at her, I felt that strange pull again, that mix of danger and desire that made it impossible to think straight. She'd sit by the window, watching the woods, her fingers tracing invisible patterns on the glass. One evening she said, "You shouldn't have helped me." I asked her why. She looked at me, and her voice almost broke. "Because now you're part of this." That night I couldn't sleep. The sound of the rain outside felt heavier than usual, like whispers against the glass. I kept thinking about her words. What did she mean? Who was after her? And why did it feel like I was already too deep to turn back? The next morning, I found something on my porch, a small envelope. No name, no return address. Inside was a single photo, Clara standing near the old train crossing, looking straight into the camera. On the back, a message in faded ink. She doesn't belong to you. That's when I realized love can be dangerous, especially when it isn't supposed to exist. The unraveling morning in Wilder's Creek always looked too calm to be real. The mist slid through the trees, the air smelled of pine and rain, and every house still had its curtains half drawn. You'd never guess that a secret was hiding behind one of them. Clara moved quietly through my place, barefoot, her hair tied back. She looked peaceful, but the kind of peace you only see right before a storm. Every time the phone rang, she froze. Every knock on the door made her flinch. I stopped answering both. One afternoon, while she was sleeping on the couch, I noticed her bag had fallen open. Inside were Paper's old ID cards, all with different names, a few hotel keys, and a small metal locket. When I opened the locket, there was a photograph of her with a man I'd never seen before. He had a uniform on. Police or security, maybe. On the back, a single date was scratched in, August 14. When she woke up, she saw the locket in my hand. For a moment, she looked at me like a stranger. "Where did you find that?" She whispered. It fell out. I said, "Clara, what's going on? Who are you really?" She stared past me out the window. "My real name isn't Clara," she said quietly. "And that man, he's not supposed to be alive." The room went silent. She told me she used to work as a nurse in another state, that she got caught in something she shouldn't have. Someone was hurt. Someone covered it up, and she ran before anyone could pin it on her. She said the man in the photo was part of it, that he'd sworn to find her again. I wanted to believe her. I needed to. Love has a way of bending truth until it fits what you want to hear. So I said the only thing that felt right. You're safe here. But inside, I knew safety was just an illusion. That night, headlights appeared again outside the house, not moving, just waiting. Clara grabbed my arm. "They found me," she said. "We have to go." We left before sunrise, driving down the back roads that wound through the forest. The town disappeared behind us, swallowed by fog. She leaned her head against the window, whispering, "I never wanted you to be part of this." I kept my eyes on the road and lied, "It's okay. We'll start over somewhere new." But the guilt followed me like a second shadow. Every mile felt heavier. I started asking myself whether she'd really told me everything. Why all those IDs? Why that picture? Why did her story keep changing just enough to stay believable? At a gas station 2 towns away, I went inside to pay, and when I came back, she was gone. The passenger door hung open, her bag still there, but she wasn't. I called her name until my throat burned. Nothing but the sound of wind in the trees. In her bag, another envelope. This time, the message read, "Let her go. She was never yours to save." The words hit harder than I expected. I realized I didn't know which hurt more, the loss or the lie. Maybe both. For the next week, I searched nearby motels, bus stops, anywhere she could have gone. No trace. People said they saw a woman who looked like her boarding a night bus heading north. I drove there, but she wasn't on it. Then, late one night, my doorbell rang. When I opened it, a man stood there. Same uniform as the one in the photo. He looked tired, older, but the eyes were the same. "I'm looking for Clara," he said, "or whatever she's calling herself now." I didn't answer. He studied me, then sighed. "She told you she was innocent, didn't she?" I nodded. He shook his head slowly. "She always does." Before I could ask anything else, he handed me a folded piece of paper and walked away into the fog. On it was a hospital report, an overdose, a forged signature, and the same date from the locket, August 14. That's when it clicked. The whispers, the fear, the running, it wasn't about being hunted. It was about hiding what she'd done. I sat there until dawn, holding that paper, feeling the whole story collapse around me. But love doesn't disappear just because truth shows up. It lingers even when it shouldn't. The truth and the ending the morning after the man left. Wilder's Creek looked the same, but I wasn't. The streets still smelled of pine and dust, but every face now felt like it was hiding something I couldn't see. I kept hearing her voice in my head, those quiet words she said the first night she came to me. They won't find me here. She was wrong. They always do. I took the hospital report to the edge of the woods, sat on the tailgate of my truck, and read it again. It wasn't just an overdose. The notes said intentional falsification of records, evidence removed, and one name signed at the bottom, Clara Vance. So that was her real name. The patient listed was a young woman who hadn't survived, and the case had been closed because the paperwork disappeared. For a long time, I couldn't move. The woman I'd promised to protect wasn't only running from the past, she was running with it. I thought about calling the number written in the corner of the report. Instead, I drove back to the old train crossing where we'd first met. The sun was setting behind the hills and the tracks glowed red. I swear I could still see her there in the fading light, smiling, alive, like none of this had ever happened. There was a box nailed under one of the wooden planks. Inside, an envelope with my name on it. I don't know how long it had been there. Inside, she'd left a note written in her neat, careful handwriting. You once asked who I really was. I wish I could have told you. I never meant for you to become part of this. I didn't lie because I wanted to. I lied because the truth would have destroyed you too. Please remember me the way you first saw me, before the whispers started. You were the only piece of peace I ever found. No signature, no goodbye, just a lock of her hair pressed inside the paper like a promise she couldn't keep. I sat there until the last train passed, its whistle cutting through the dark like a warning. When it was gone, only silence remained, the kind of silence that feels heavier than sound. In the weeks that followed, I tried to go back to work. People asked if I'd heard from the woman who used to come by the shop. I said she'd moved on. Maybe that was the truth in some way, but every night when the wind runs through the trees, I still hear it. A soft voice whispering my name. Maybe it's memory, maybe it's guilt, or maybe love never really leaves. It just changes the way it haunts you. Sometimes I drive past the crossing and imagine a future where she tells the truth, where we start over in another town. Then I remember her words, you shouldn't have helped me. Maybe she was right, but if I could go back, I'd still open that door. Because some loves aren't meant to last, they're meant to change you. And in that quiet little town of Wilder's Creek, if you listen closely on certain nights, you might hear it too. The whisper of a love that shouldn't have existed, but somehow still does.